Hello there. Today we are going to talk about solving equations algebraically. By this point you should have already learned how to solve equations pictorially, so we're going to take that one step further. If you haven't learned how to solve equations pictorially, then you should go back and complete your neon yellow notes before you complete. Let's take a look first at the word inverse. Now when we think about the word inverse, what does that word inverse really mean? Well, the word inverse in the context of, or when we're talking about solving equations, means doing the opposite or reciprocal operation. So you can go ahead and write down doing the opposite or reciprocal operation. Now, when we think about the operation specifically, the operation of subtraction, as you may know, is addition. To undo addition, you must subtract. To undo division, you must multiply, and the inverse of multiplication is division. Now, when we're solving these equations, it's going to be very important that you must perform the same operations on both sides of the equation in order for both sides to remain equal. You learned this when you were working with solving pictorial equations earlier. Whatever you did to one side, you must do to the other. So let's look at some steps as to how we go about solving equations. The goal still is to find the value of the variable. The variable may be x, it may be y, it's any letter that represents a number. Now, how do we go about this? There are some steps that you can take to algebraically solve equations. The first step is to identify what operations are in the equation. What are you working with? Next, you're going to use opposite or inverse operations to remove the numbers around the variable. Remember, as I mentioned earlier, you want to do the same operations to both sides of your equation. Now, if there's more than one operation in your equation, you're going to work backwards, and you're going to follow SAD-MEG. I'll touch more on that in our next video. Finally, once you've solved or isolated your variable, you're going to check your work by substituting your answer into the original equation. Let's take a look at what a simple problem might look like. I just want you to watch and listen here. This is not on your paper. So let's look at the equation x plus 8. First, we're going to write our equation. Then we're going to determine what operations are happening. Well, in this case, adding 8 is the operation. Addition. The inverse of addition is subtraction. So we're going to subtract 8 to isolate the variable. We subtract 8 on the left side, we're going to subtract 8 on the right side. We end up being left with x equals 2. Now, is our answer correct? There's a way to figure out if, in fact, this answer is correct, and that's by checking our work. We're going to start with our equation, which was x plus 8 equals 10. Then we're going to substitute in for x when x equals 2. Remembering our parentheses, we're going to put the value in for x as 2. So now our equation looks like 2 plus 8 equals 10. Well, when we do the operation of addition, we discover that yes, 10 equals 10. So we can give ourselves a check saying yes, that answer is correct. Now, if your answer on the side where you've inputted your variable, so over here, if this answer did not equal 10, then we would know that the variable or the answer that we got when we solved for the variable was not correct, and we would have to go back, solve the equation again, and then once again check our work. This is a very important step and allows you to make sure that you get the correct answer every time. Now I want you to look on your paper under examples, and it's time to try them on your own. Solve for the variable in example A, check your work. Solve for the variable in example B, check your work. Then come back to this video and review your answers. it's time to pause the video or stop the video and try examples A and B. Now you should have tried the examples and now you're playing the video. Here's your review. If you have any questions, you should stop and talk to your teacher. By this point, you will have talked to your teacher if you had any questions about the addition and subtraction examples you just did. Now let's take a look at a division example. 3 equals the variable d divided by -4. Now the inverse operation, remember the line means division, so the inverse operation of division is multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides by -4. Now I guess I should have noted before, but this line here, sometimes we'll call it the river, and you want to keep both sides of the river equal, or you want to keep both sides of your equation equal. So whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. We multiply the right side by -4, we must multiply the left side by -4. Now, 3d over -4 times -4 equals 1, and 3 times -4 equals -12. You should know your integer operations of a negative times a positive equals a negative, but you can also be using a calculator to solve for your variable. Once we've discovered what the value of the variable is, let's check our work. Once again, we're going to start with our equation, which was 3 equals d over -4, and we're going to evaluate or substitute when d equals -12. So we're going to put -12 in for d right here. Then we're going to solve and discover that 3 equals 3, meaning that our answer is correct. Now just a friendly reminder, if you would have gotten that this side equaled something other than 3, then you would have to go back, resolve your equation, isolating your variable, and then check your work again to see if you got the correct answer. At this point, you should go ahead and now look at the bottom of your paper and try examples C and D on your own. Stop the video, try examples C and D, then play to review your work and move on. At this point, you will have tried example C and D and you're playing the video. Here's your review. Make sure that if you have any questions about examples C or D, to check with your teacher before moving on to the back side of the notes. You can go ahead and stop this video, take a review of your notes before moving on to the backside video. Thanks for viewing.